Good morning. Today I'll be reading to you from the sixth book of the Left Behind series. This book is called Assassins. Today I am reading chapter 12, and I'll begin to read now. Mac was up and walking long before Abdullah and was eager to get back to New Babylon. Difficult as his job was, therapy had been no respite. He might have otherwise felt pampered in the Johannesburg palace, but his injuries negated any rest. Between painkillers, his body was afire. He requested doses only large enough to take the edge off. The last thing he wanted was an addiction to pills. Mac was disgusted with himself for two gaffes. He had hollered over the air that believers were on board Global One. Fortunately, Dwayne Tuttle, the erstwhile Dart, had covered for him, but Mac had also tossed Leon Fortunato, of all people, his secure phone. It was nearly twice as heavy as a normal cell phone, packed with so much secure technology. Leon hadn't seemed to notice, but what if someone had called Mac while Leon had the phone? If they didn't recognize Leon's voice or had less than perfect reception, they could have compromised the whole tribulation force. What troubled Mac was that neither lapse was a result of panic or desperation. Both were due to lack of faith. He sincerely believed they were not going to survive the onslaught, and thus was the difference. Fortunately, he had been wise in his selection of a new first officer. Abdullah had saved the day with the phone. Mac had awakened with a start late the first night during his recovery. He shook Abdullah awake. "Leon has my phone," he said. "One call from the wrong person and we're history." "Sleep well, my friend," Abdullah said. "Your roommate is a pickpocket." "Come again?" "When you and Leon were helping me into the terminal, I retrieved your phone from his pocket." "That's a heavy phone. Why didn't he notice?" "He was scared to death." "I picked my spot. The phone is in my possession." "What time is it?" Abdullah checked his watch. 2 in the morning. "What time in the States?" "They are 9 hours behind us when we are in New Babylon, 8 here." "Let me have that phone." Mac called Rayford and filled him in on the Tuttles, who had disappeared shortly after delivering Mac and Abdullah to the infirmary. "I didn't even get a chance to tell them how connected we were to the co-op," Mac said. "But your daughter is surely aware of them." Rayford found Chloe was aware of the Tuttles. "They're going to handle a huge South Sea area for us," she said. That they were close enough to hear Mac's Mayday is nothing short of a miracle. "It's a contact straight from God," Rayford said. "If you can spare them, I need them to get me to Europe." "Why don't you fly yourself, Dad?" "I don't want to fly alone and then try to be at my best incognito. I'd share the flying with Dwayne. We can take his Super J or the Gulfstream." "Do you know where you're going?" "Beauregard Hanson is going to tell me next time he shows up at Pewaukee. T is going to keep him there under some pretense. I'm going to wave a little cash under his nose and he's going to sing. He just doesn't know it yet." David Hasid sat transfixed before his computer, earplug in, listening to Carpathia and Fortunato. "Leon, you must not feel obligated to kiss my ring every time you come into my presence. I appreciate it in public, but—" "Begging your pardon, Excellency." "And you must also feel the freedom to address me informally in private. We go back a long way, and—" "Oh, but I could not. Not now. Not after all I have witnessed and experienced. You must understand, Potent, that I do not do these things from any other motive than genuine devotion. I believe you to be inspired, sir, and while it's at the highest honor that you consider me enough of a friend to call me by name, Forgive me if I cannot reciprocate. Very well, then, Leon. Now tell me about your encounter with the man who would be king. David listened as Fortunato recounted the conversation. Carpathia was silent a moment. Then, Peter does not know, does he? He does not have any idea that I knew of his alliance with Rehoboth. He believes he can divide me from my regional potentates and conquer me. I'm sure that's what he believes, Excellency. What a fool, Carpathia said. Shall we let him lead us to another subversive or two, or has his time come? David heard movement as if Carpathia had stood. His voice quality had changed, so David assumed he was pacing. I nearly lost patience with you months ago when he had not been eliminated, but in the end there was benefit. Not only did he lead us to Rehoboth, a recent commute from him proved him enlightening, and may have hearing on our two friends to the south. The Jerusalem twosome? The same. You like that term, do you not? Genius, sir. Only you. I had asked him to put his scholars on all the mysterious manuscripts from the past, from Nostradamus to ancient holy writings and such, and see if there are any clues to the vulnerability of these two. I know the Ben Judalites believe they are the two witnesses prophesied in the Christian scriptures. In the unlikely event that they are, Matthew tells me they will be vulnerable 4 months from now. They themselves have spoken often of their being protected from harm until the due time. But, sir, Fortunato whined, the people who say these men are the prophesied ones are the same who say you are the Antichrist. I know, Leon. You and I know I am merely doing what I have been called to do. But if they have a due time, so does their enemy. Leon, take a breath. Do I act like an Antichrist? Certainly not, Excellency. Who do you say that I am? You know well that I believe in my heart you may be Christ himself. I shall not make that claim for myself, trusted friend, at least not yet. Only when it's obvious to the world that I have divine power could I personally make such a claim. I have spread far and wide the story of your resurrecting me. I appreciate that and am confident many believe it, but it was not witnessed by anyone else, so there may be doubt. I have been ineffective in containing the two preachers, which has damaged my credibility. But I worship a deity determined to be the God above all gods, to sit high above the heavens, to evolve into the perfect eternal being. How can I fail if I pledge myself to him? As I pledge myself to you, Excellency. To David, it seemed Carpathia had returned to his chair behind his desk, where the microphone fidelity was best. Let us bide our time on Peter, he said. Are the majority of the potentates at the limits of their patience with him? They are. And, sir, despite that potentate Rehoboth misled me on this very issue, I believe most of the others were sincere. They assured me they were not only sympathetic to eliminating him, but that they would also be willing to participate in his demise. Leon, I have worked with rulers long enough to know that their word is worthless until it has been confirmed by action. We must allow Peter to believe that more regional potentates are disloyal to me. Clearly, his goal is to usurp my role. Rehoboth would have been his Fortunato had the assassination attempt succeeded. Surely Peter must believe he has the confidence of the others. Let us use that to our advantage. I will give this my full attention, sir, and thank you again for surrounding me with protection in Johannesburg. I will give this my think nothing of it. When will the pilots return so we may confer the medals upon them? Soon, sir. The people have pageantry, do they not? Leon agreed aloud, but Carpathia talked over him. With the turmoil of late, we have had too few opportunities to make examples of modern citizens, of heroes. Our workforce is depleted, Excellency, but with creativity, we can rise to the occasion and make their return to New Babylon a world-class event. To David, Carpathia sounded as if he were dreaming. Yes, yes, he said. I like that. I like that very much. And get someone on this timing issue with the twosome. If the Ben Judahites put the due time at the midpoint of our agreement with Israel, I want the precise date. David's heart pounded as he could feel Carpathia's excitement. The potent raised his voice, spoke more quickly. Talk about pageantry, my friend. Talk about an event. Fool the two, surprise them, defer to them until that time. Give them the audience they think they deserve. Pull out all the stops, Leon. Global television coverage. Plan a happening. Put me there. Yes, I shall be in Jerusalem, the heart of the country, with whom I have been a solemn pact. We will celebrate the halfway point of the peace that has been accomplished there. Produce the dignitaries. Get Peter there in all his laughable finery. My old friend Dr. Rosenzweig must be a guest of honor. We will do as the so-called saints do and recommit ourselves. I will dedicate myself anew to the protection of Israel. With all the world's eyes there, I shall personally take responsibility for the end of those preachers. How her citizens will love the end of plagues, drought, famine, bloody water. Leon, take a note. Get the potentates to encourage Peter in his scheming against me. Have them lead him to believe they are with him, that the meetings, whenever and wherever you need them, full use of all our resources. This must be our proudest moment, the perfect performance. It shall be the end of insurrection, the end of opposition, the end of Enigma Babylon trying to assume my authority, the end of the Judites with no preachers in Jerusalem to worship. But Ben Judah still has that vast audience. Even he will lose heart when it becomes clear there is only one power on earth and that it resides in New Babylon. Invite him, invite his followers. They were so buoyed by embarrassing me and trying to kill me there last year. We'll welcome them back and watch their reaction. You are brilliant, Excellency. If you like that, Leon, consider this. It will take the best you have to offer, but start confiding in Peter that all is not well between you and me. But, Excellency, I know, Leon, but the Supreme Pontiff knows too. I can't imagine convincing him that my unwavering loyalty has suddenly, of course, it must not be sudden. Let him suggest it. Surely he finds negative things to plant in your mind about me, does he not? Has he never criticized me? Oh, certainly, but I always defend your motives and just hesitate once, Leon. Let him render you silent just once. I know him. He will pronounce on it. He believes he can persuade anyone of anything. What an ego to believe the 10 potentates admire him, when we know beyond doubt most of them would kill him themselves. Can you do it, Leon? I'll try. I have every confidence in you. Within 4 months, we will consolidate all power and authority and render opposition moot. Just the thought of it energizes me. Go now, friend. Hesitate to ask for nothing. All our resources are at your disposal. Thank you, Excellency. Thank you for the privilege of serving you. What a nice thing to say, Carpathia said. David had a headache from listening intently for so long. He was about to shut down the computer when he heard someone in Carpathia's office again. The secretary chatted with him for a minute, then he asked her to hold all calls and allow no visitors until further notice. David heard the door close and then a click, and he assumed Carpathia had locked it. He waited to see if Carpathia made a significant phone call. He heard the squeak of Nikolai's chair, and then perhaps it rolled. Finally, he heard the potent whispering, "O Lucifer, son of the morning, I have worshipped you since childhood." David shivered, his heart thudding. Carpathia continued, "How grateful I am for the creativity you imbue. O Lion of glory, angel of light, I praise you for imaginative redemptive ideas that never cease to amaze me. You have given me the nations. You have promised that I shall ascend into heaven with you, that we will exalt our thrones above the stars of God. I rest in your promise that I will ascend above the heights of the clouds. I will be like the Most High. I shall do all your bidding so I may claim your promises to rule the universe by your side. You have chosen me and allowed me to make the earth tremble and to shake kingdoms. Your glory will be my glory, and like unto you, I will never die. I eagerly await the day when I may make plain your power and majesty. Rayford got the call late on a Friday night. He's here, T said, and I told him someone was coming in with an interesting and potentially profitable proposition. So far, he's bit, but I hadn't seen him since your woman friend disappeared, and I could tell he's waiting for me to raise the issue. I'll be there. Keep him warm. Rayford sat down with Leah and asked if he could waive some of her cash before Bo Hanson to see if he'd sell information on the whereabouts of Hattie Durham. Well, she said, as if relishing her position, you hardly speak to me for days. Never ask how I'm doing, not even how or if the ribs are mending. But now you need something, and here you are. Rayford didn't know what to say. He hated her tone and her attitude, but he was guilty. I have been remiss, he tried. I risk my life with you and donate my husband's and my entire life savings to the Tribulation Force, and you treat me like an intruder. That's remiss? Apparently it's unforgivable, he said. Apparently? You say that as if conceding that I've decided you're without excuse. Rayford stood, Leah said. Please don't be rude enough to walk away from me. He turned. There are easier ways to say no. Could you try another? But I'm not saying no. You could have fooled me. I enjoy rattling your cage. I'm glad one of us enjoys it. Rayford, please, I have been hurt by your avoidance of me, but I also realize that you have suffered many losses, including 2 wives in 3 years. I don't expect you to be comfortable with me. But I thought we patched up our rocky start, and going through what we went through together has to count for something. He sat back down. I don't know about you, Leah, but I found that as frightening as anything I've encountered, and that includes discovering my wife's body at the bottom of the Tigris. I don't like to think about it, and I sure don't want to dwell on it. This is no excuse, but maybe you remind me of it. I'm sure I do, but you're in charge here, and I need something to do. Assign me something, Chief. I'm ready to offer every medical skill I have when necessary, but I don't want to work only when people are hurt or sick. I've tried to help Chloe with the baby and even some with the co-op, but she's too nice to ask. I have to push myself on her, make that my job, and she won't feel bad about counting on me. Okay, consider that done. Tell her I will. And you people are so politically correct around here. No one's even suggested I do anything domestic. I happen to be a good cook and enjoy everything about it, planning, food preparation, even cleanup. May I do that for you so you can all concentrate on what you're supposed to be doing? You do that? That would help. I'd feel I was contributing. Forget the money. You didn't even have to ask. I told you from the beginning I was giving it to the cause, and I meant it. If circumstances changed and I left here tomorrow, I wouldn't take a penny with me. Can we put that to rest? That's so above and beyond. I already feel appropriately thanked. We bring to the table what we have, and none is more important than another, except maybe Tyson. So you were giving me a hard time because you deserved it. You should have cared more and showed it. Have I asked about your knee? Several times. I wasn't being polite. I caused that injury. I didn't know you weren't looking, but I shouldn't have stopped in front of you anyway. You're a wonderful man. You were hurt. I care. I asked. You gave me the curacy, macho answer. End of conversation. I was hurt too, and no one was responsible for that but you. You were following too close. moving too fast for conditions. Rayford shook his head. So how are the ribs coming? Slow, as a matter of fact. I might have cracked more than one. I can go through a day hardly aware of them, then one false move, and I'd like to scream. I'm sorry. I hope you feel better soon. She looked at him. I mean it, he said. I know, and you have a lot more on your mind than my needs. Has everyone else been good to you? The best. No complaints. I'm the only one who doesn't get a gold star, and since I have your attention, would you consider something for when I get healthy? I am mobile. I am smart. I take risks, like I did for you, all more than once at the hospital. I have no family, nothing to lose. If you need me to go somewhere, do something, deliver something, pick up something, communicate something, I can do the phony alias. All right, I almost blew it with the GC the other night. You gave up too soon, was all. Actually, you caught on quickly and covered well. Keep me in mind, is all I'm saying. With hair dye and makeup, women are harder to recognize than men. The GC won't keep my picture circulating for long. Get me a fake ID and put me to work. In good time. I've gotten excited about having you in charge of Eats. I was afraid I would regret that offer. Rayford stood, his toe and knee still tender. Chloe stepped in from the front room. Daddy, bad news. You know I've been trying to reach Nancy, Hattie's sister, to let her know we're sure Hattie's alive. I found her. She shows up on a confirmed dead list. Smoke inhalation. Rayford looked at the floor. Well, he said sadly, another reason to find Hattie. Mac, and Abdullah were scheduled to board the new global community one early Friday evening to be ferried back to New Babylon by Mac's old first officer. The plane, appropriated from Peter II, had been rechristened from 2-1 to Phoenix 2-16. Leon Fortunato would come to fetch the wounded heroes. Mac just couldn't wait to get back to David and Annie. There was a chore of bugging the new plane and also something urgent David had to talk to him about and didn't dare by phone. When the world's leading communications security technician won't talk on the phone, it's big. Mac was packing just after 4 o'clock when he got a call from Rayford. I'm on my way to Pewaukee to put some pressure on this Bo character I told you about. I'm going to be in Europe soon, and I need a few things. Albie, still your best source? Oh, by far. What do you need? Oh, I just as soon talk to him directly. Got his number? Not with me. I expect to be home tonight. Can you wait till then? I guess. If you can't get David to dig it out for me. It's in my computer. A few hours make that much difference? I guess not. With his new face and his fresh, old looking documents, Buck flew commercial to Tel Aviv. It had amazed him how difficult it was to find flights anymore. The plague of smoke and fire and sulfur continued to ravage the earth, and virtually every aspect of life was affected. The rapture itself had changed the face of society, and life had not been the same since the great earthquake either. But Buck knew it would get worse. Virtually everyone had lost someone. He found it hard to leave Chloe and the baby. He had been with them more than 10 months from the moment of Kenny's birth. Buck couldn't imagine the bond he'd developed and was shocked at how he physically ached to hold the baby. He had known that longing for Chloe, and sometimes it had nearly driven him mad. Somehow, with Kenny, it was even more intense. On the plane, an Asian woman a few rows behind him held a small boy, probably a few months younger than Kenny. Buck was so jealous it was all he could do to stay in his seat when the boy squalled during takeoff. As soon as he was able, he found his way back and asked the woman if she spoke English. A little, she said. What's your baby's name? Lee, she said, pronouncing it Lee. Hi, Lee, he said, and the boy locked eyes with him. How old? 7 months, she said. Beautiful boy. Thank you very much, sir. Would he come to me? Beg pardon? Buck held out his arms to the baby. May I hold him? She hesitated. I keep, she said. That's fine, he said. I understand. I would not give my boy to a stranger either. You have baby boy? He showed her a picture, and she cooed and showed it to her son, who tried to grab it. Beautiful boy, too. You miss? Very much. She nudged her baby toward him, and Buck reached for Lee again. The boy eagerly went to him, but when Buck straightened and gathered him in, Lee grew serious and squirmed to keep an eye on his mother. She's right there, Buck said. Mama's right there. But Lee squawked, and she took him back. Buck offered his hand, which she shook shyly. Greg North, he said. Nice meet you, Mr. Gregg, she said, but she did not offer her name. Later in the flight, after Buck had eaten, he was thrilled when the young mother asked his help. He had seen her pacing the aisle with Lee till he fell asleep. She said, You hold, I eat. Buck held the sleeping child for nearly 20 minutes before she came for him. He hated to give him up. In Tel Aviv, Buck searched every face for the sign of the cross. The only one he saw was on a man who was being interrogated, so Buck refrained from jeopardizing his situation. It was 9 a.m. in Israel when Buck slung his bag over his shoulder and stepped out of the Ben Gurion airport terminal to call Chaim Rosenzweig's home. A young female answered and spoke in Hebrew. Buck racked his brain. English, please, he said, hoping he could come up with a name. Dr. Rosenzweig, she said, may I help you? Hannelore? Yes, she said tentatively. Who's speaking, please? I'll tell you, but you must not say my name aloud, all right? Who is it, please? I want to surprise. Who? Hannelore, it's Buck Williams. Buck, she whispered with excitement. No one can hear me. Where are you? Ben Gurion. Can you come? The doctor and Jacob will be so excited. I very much want to see everyone. Wait there. I will send Jacob. Tell him not to say my name, Hannelore. If he must call out for me, I am using the name Greg North. Greg North. He will come soon, Buck. Greg, I'm sorry. I will keep your secret from Dr. Rosenzweig. He will be so... And how is Jonas? Oh, Buck, I'm sorry. He has passed. Praise God, he is in heaven. We'll tell you all about it. And that is the end of chapter 12. Next, I'll be reading chapter 13. Thank you for joining me and have a wonderful day.